What did we learn from the Titans preseason opener at home against the San Francisco 49ers? We're going to go through it. Who stood out? And again, yes, what we learned about this team out of this game. Titans win 17-13, but the result doesn't matter. What happened on the field does matter for these players. So let's get into it. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it. Oh, welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast presented by Broadway Sports Media in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. With me, as always, Justin Melo. And Justin, we did it. We got Titans football. We got to watch the team play. How you feeling after that one?
I'm doing well. It was a lot of fun. It was as fun as I hoped it would be. You know what I mean? It's been a while, obviously, and I thought it lived up. Really encouraging, entertaining showing on both sides of the ball for the Titans tonight.
I agree. So we're going to talk through things we learned about this roster, guys that stood out, guys that didn't stand out in both a good way and a bad way. We're going to get into all that. Before we do, we have a really exciting announcement we should share, and I'm just going to toss it over to you to take it away here. You've been working on a massive project for months now. You finally announced it on Twitter earlier on Saturday. Tell us what you've been doing, Justin.
Yeah, more like years, not months. I think it's been at least 24 months, roughly, but I wrote a book about the history of the Tennessee Titans. And when I say history, it's a season-by-season summary going back to 1960. You know, it's funny. When we entered negotiations with the publisher, they sort of headhunted me for this project. The first question I asked them was, do you want the Houston Oilers, right? Like, what kind of project am I taking on here? And they said to me, that's a question for you, actually. What do you think? And I'm not going to lie to me, it crossed my mind where I'm like, man, I'd be cutting out 80% of the work. You know what I mean? If we do Titans only. But we're always so passionate. You know, that's the Tennessee Titans history, right? Like, how could I get on Twitter and fight Texans fans and say, that's not yours, that's ours, and then cut it out of them? So the book covers all the way 1960 to 2003, really 2023, obviously, up to 2024, really, because it covers the offseason as well. Season by season summaries. It's a gorgeous coffee table book, beautiful photos, schedules, starting lineup for every single season, the schedule, win losses, stat leaders for every meaningful statistical category, and then about a 400-word summary of every single season. I did the all-decade teams. I made my picks for every single decade for the all-decade team. It's really lovely. I think you guys are going to love it. The support on Twitter today was overwhelming. I'm so thankful to the people. Not only those who sent me receipts who have already purchased it but pre-ordered, but the ones that have just said how excited they are. And I had Stephanie, who was, I think, Titans Fan of the Year a couple of years ago, said how she can't wait to get it for her son so he could grow his fandom. Like, those are the things that really warm my heart, in all honesty, as I get ready to see this project reach its conclusion, right? Finally, it's been years and it's finally coming out. It'll be out in about a month. It's coming out in September, late September. So if you pre-ordered it, you should have it by the 23rd, 24th of September, roughly. Just waiting on the final word from the manufacturer, if you will, when they'll be ready to ship out. But I finished it in March, turned it in like right after the L'Jarius Sneed trade. So I got to cover that a little bit. And so right up until that point, everything is covered. So I'm really, really excited about it.
Yeah, I already pre-ordered my copy, so I would encourage everyone to do the same. I will put the link to do so in the description of this podcast. So big congratulations to you, Justin. Lots of hard work. You deserve all the flowers that are coming your way.
Thank you. And if you're international, this has been my favorite part of it. I've had so many international jump in the comments. This isn't going to be available in Europe, is it? Well, Amazon is carrying it, so that means every single country. It's available already on Amazon, Brazil, Spain, every country in the world. You can get this book through your local Amazon, your mom and pop Amazon provider. So it's everywhere. It's in books. It's going to be in bookstores here in Toronto and Canada, to my knowledge. They're going to be stocking it on shelves. So really excited. This is the fifth book this publisher has done on NFL teams. So it's a great publisher, and they done the Buffalo Bills, Bengals, all kinds. So Titans, I think, are the fourth, and I was honored that they chose me to oversee this project.
Yeah, well, congratulations again. We all look forward to when that comes out in September. Go pre-order your copy now. If you want to support this show, this is one way to do it. We never ask for a single dollar from anyone. We just create content for free because we love to do it. We love the fan. We love the interaction. We love the community that we're building around the Music City Audible. But now we actually do have a way that you can help support the show, and that is by, it won't support me at all, but give Justin his flowers and go pre-order the book. So let's move on and talk about this game here. Titans win 17-13, but who cares? Doesn't go in the record books. Nobody is going to remember that in 6 months, but it was a cool showing for a lot of factors, and I want to talk through them. Before we really dive in, I'll remind everybody watching, please subscribe to this channel, Music City Audible. Give this video a like, thumbs up, and turn on channel alerts so you get a notification every time we drop a new video. Also, thanks to Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville, Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville for sponsoring this episode. We'll talk more about Sinkers Beverages in a bit. So, things that stood out. I think we need to start, Justin, with what everybody is, what everyone wanted to see more than anything coming into this game, which was Will Levis. How does he run the offense? Well, he leads 2 touchdown drives, finishes the game 4 for 5 passing, not a huge yardage total there, 4 for 5 for just 35 yards, which is a 7.0 yards per attempt. But a few factors here that obviously play into this. 2 huge returns for the Titans special teams, which we're going to talk about that separately in a second. So not as long of a field for the Titans to drive. Driving down the field twice, down the field. The first one wasn't really down the field after the huge kickoff return by Kiaris Jackson.
And a penalty.
And a penalty tacked on. But still, commanding the offense, converting on 3rd down, 1 conversion via penalty in the end zone, which you'll take it. You get a chance to reset and run some more offense. But that was on the first drive, right before Levis sneaked it into the end zone, QB sneak style, got that rushing touchdown. But overall, I think his command of the offense was great. The Titans leaned more heavily on the run game, especially early downs, than I expected, which I suspect is more of a preseason, let's not reveal our true scheme and our true tendencies type of thing. Let's get the offensive line going here. It's a new group. Yeah. Let's let them gel in the run game. Let's see how these new running backs, how the rotation is going to work. So I think that's why we saw a lot of run, pass. People were complaining already. Run, pass is already back. But I think there's a reason, and it's intentional there. But overall, Levis looked great. The one incompletion on the 4 for 5 was targeting Calvin Ridley in the end zone on a play where Ridley probably could have done a better job being more physical with the cornerback, but also in the regular season, I could totally see that being pass interference. He basically got tackled by the defensive back. A lot of contact on that play. So overall, I think it was a very good showing for Will Levis. It didn't take a sack. The one thing I wish he hadn't done is scrambled right into a massive hit at the goal line. I almost thought he was going to do, remember with the play we broke down with Liam Cohen, Justin, where it looked a lot like this play where he's rolling, bootlegging out to the right like that, except he dove from like the 5-yard line and made it into the end zone back when he was with Kentucky. I thought he was about to do that. I'm glad he didn't, but he still took a huge hit. Not something you want to do in the preseason, not something you want him to do at all. He's too important to this team, but overall, great showing in his first preseason action.
Look, if he got hurt, I'm sure I would have been absolutely livid. But I'll be honest, my reaction to the play, everyone started saying that, and I get it. But my reaction, I just chuckled. Because you know what I said immediately? I said, you just can't coach the competitor out of them. You know what I mean? Like, as much as they're trying to in those situations, it's like Brian Callahan's talked all summer about him being smarter, protecting himself. First chance he gets in the preseason, he flushed it down the toilet, right? Like I just laughed it off because he obviously wasn't hurt. It was quick. I was like, you just can't, man. He's just wired that way, and part of you love part of it, right? Because that's what you want your quarterback to be. You want him to be wired that way. I thought he was good. I think the most important thing I saw, you kind of alluded to, command of the offense, but it was taking the checkdowns when they were there. Yeah. Right. Playing within structure, playing within the structure of the offense. That's something I've talked about all summer with him and what he's got to show this year. Now, the preseason doesn't reveal a lot. We know that, but I do tend to think your tendencies are your tendencies, right? I don't think you can turn that on and off in the preseason and the regular season. So I thought it was good to see that he had command of the offense, was willing to play within structure, took those checkdowns. I mean, look at the conversion to Calvin Ridley on 3rd down. That was probably obviously his best play of the game. He just kind of took what was there short of the sticks. He didn't force something beyond the sticks. And then he trusted his receiver to go make a great play after the catch to move the chain. So all in all, really good positive showing for Will Levis.
Yeah, and he had a check down to Pollard earlier, I think, on that drive that went for 6 yards and set up a short third down. That was nice. And yeah, the Calvin Ridley play, not only did he do the smart thing by finding his guy and trusting his receiver, but he had to go through a couple reads to get there. I think Ridley was sort of the last read in that progression because he was lined up to the right side of the formation and ran like a little drag route where he sat it down. And Levis's eyes were downfield first, on the left side first, and then he came back down to Ridley and hit him. Also on that play, Nicholas Petit-Frere picks up a stunt on the right side of the line. Are you kidding me? Is this Bill Callahan effect? What do we got? What's going on here? But yeah, I loved all of that. I want to talk, before we move on and talk about the offensive line, because I do want to hit on that, I also want to say something we learned here. So I think that's enough on Will Levis, right? He didn't play very much.
Yeah.
Didn't see the downfield shots. Those will come. I think they're probably saving those. They don't want to spoil all the offense here in the preseason. And maybe they weren't open, and he did the smart thing, like you said, by taking the check down. So moving on to the running backs, I was very intrigued by the rotation. Tony Pollard came out, was the starter, quote-unquote starter, not that it really matters. Looked really explosive, had that 24-yard run where there was just the right side of the line caved open, a huge hole for him to run through. Super explosive play. I tweeted Tony Pollard looks extremely explosive, and Cowboys Twitter has picked it up, and they're all just like crying. Oh, like just they can't stop crying about having lost Tony Pollard this offseason. But the interesting thing here was Brian Callahan was rotating these running backs every 3-4 snaps. It wasn't like you get a drive, now you get a drive. Now maybe that's because they weren't planning to play them very much because it's just a preseason game. They only played the starters 2 drives anyway. But maybe that's an indication of how these guys will be used. And the workload distribution, Tony Pollard had 4 carries, 2 receptions. Tajay Spears had 3 carries, 1 reception. So a 6-4 touch split there. Is Tony Pollard the 1A and Tajay Spears the 1B? Is that something we can say we learned, or is it too early?
I think it's too early to say, but that's always been my expectation, and that's what I think it's going to be. I just think Pollard's a better early down between the tackles runner, right? So when you're that guy, you're probably going to get the majority of the carries and of the workload, right? And they paid him that way. And maybe I'm wrong. Do you disagree? I think he's a better early down between the tackles runner. So that to me always tells me he's going to get more work.
I can see why you'd say that, especially based on their histories. But at the same time, Spears' touchdown run was an early down between the tackles play. And it was beautiful. 2 jump cuts on that play where he just sliced to the left and then sliced back upfield. I mean, that was a phenomenal looking run, but hardly even touched on a play that was fairly well defended in terms of the gap soundness by San Francisco's backups. Again, San Francisco played mostly backups, so we'll put all of this into that grain of salt territory. But I thought Tajay Spears looked really good as well. He only had 3 carries for 2 yards, and he had a 4-yard touchdown run. So obviously some things went wrong. But yeah, overall, I thought both backs looked pretty good. And I guess I do agree with you overall. Tony Pollard is a bit better, but that's not to take away from Tajay Spears' ability to run between the tackles, because I think he can do it too. You want to move on here? Let's talk a little more about Calvin Ridley. He got 2 targets on 2 drives in this game. One of them I mentioned, the incompletion in the end zone that was kind of iffy on whether or not it was PI. The one where he caught the ball about 9 yards down. I think it was it 3rd and 8, whatever it was. He was 1 yard short of the sticks essentially. And then made a move, like pivoted around to his left and got up the field turned an 8-yard catch into a 22-yard gain. That qualifies as an explosive pass play over 20 yards. So I thought he looked great. I mean, we didn't see a lot of him. We didn't expect to see a lot of him, but I'm glad he got that one catch, that one big run, put that out there and show what he can do. Got the target in the end zone. Is that an indication of something this offense is going to be? Is like when Calvin Ridley's got single coverage, one-on-one on the outside, we're going to give him a chance. At least one of the 4 downs we have down here, we're going to give him a chance. So all in all, I thought it was great. We didn't really see anything from Tyler Boyd, so not really much to take away from there. DeAndre Hopkins obviously dealing with the knee, wasn't out there. So Ridley was the de facto go-to receiver, made the big 3rd down conversion, made a huge explosive play on a drive that ended in a touchdown. Love to see it.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to add. I just think the big play is a perfect introductory. Here's your $92 million receiver, and here's why you should be excited about him, right? Like, that was the kind of, I mean, we know him well, obviously, but that was sort of the vibe I got from that play. Your first introduction in a live action Titans game getting to see him. I'm going to move on to the offensive line here. Now, before I talk about what I really wanted to talk about, because it was something that surprised me and I haven't seen anyone else mention it. Kudos to Nicholas Petit-Frere, as you said, for, first of all, helping cave in that huge hole on the Tony Pollard long run and picking up the stunt on the passing play you talked about earlier. I always give him crap for not picking up stunts his rookie year, so I want to go out of my way to mention that and say he showed some growth there in that ability to pick up the stunt. The penalty on third and goal right before the Will Levis touchdown run. At first I think I had said to you as a joke, like, oh, they kind of got not bailed out, but they got, you're fortunate to get a penalty on. There was going to be fourth down, right? You feel fortunate to get a penalty. But then I thought, no, you know what? That penalty is a result of great protection up front. Okay, because Will Levis had so much damn time in that pocket before he scrambled. Unbelievable rep by J.C. Latham, by the way, his best rep of the night for sure.
J.C. Latham got his man on the ground. Look, go back and watch our breakdown of J.C. Latham with his high school head coach, Kevin Wright. There were so many reps where it's like J.C. Latham finishes the rep by putting his man into the turf. And he did it on that play, and it was awesome.
That was his best play. That protection was so good. What happens? You're asking DBs to cover way too long in the end zone. Someone's going to hold. That's why that penalty happened. Exactly. That's why it's first and goal. And Titans scored a touchdown instead of a field goal, right? The O-line scored that touchdown, in my opinion, by holding up as long as they did. What I want to get into on the O-line here, only a nerd like me might notice this. I was surprised by several things in terms of the rotation, okay? The rotation of the O-line. Like at least three of them, maybe more. Number one, talked about Andrew Rupcich. No reps at right guard in this game. 0. All at left guard, second team left guard. I don't know that matters, right? I think he could play left guard at a high level in preseason and still win the starting right guard job because they know he could play it. They know he's versatile to play both. It might have just been, we need a guy to play the left side, whatever. But a little surprising, right? That now he's in the mix at right guard. They put him there after Sadiq Charles retired. Like he was getting first-team reps at practice the other day at right guard, but he only plays left guard in this game. That's the first thing that surprised me. The second thing that surprised me...
Can I jump in really quick before you go to your second thing? The first thing that surprised me was that the Titans had a right guard on the field when the game started. Because if you look at the depth chart, the most recent one, and it's still up right now, if you go to titansonline.com, click on team, click on depth chart, right now there's just a hole for first team right guard. There's nobody listed. So pretty shocking that they actually do have a first team right guard, apparently.
Braden's got both drives, right? So he's filling that hole. Rupcich, second team left guard. Moving on to number 2, Daniel Brunskill, also no reps at right guard. Not as surprising, but only worked as second team center. That's what it's been all summer. But again, they talked about him maybe getting back in the right guard mix after Charles's retirement. Didn't happen in this game, working as second team center. Third and final, that surprised me. And this might mean nothing. Normally, I think it would, but I'm not convinced it does in this situation. Was Jalen Duncan working ahead of John Njoku at right tackle. He was second team right tackle. Duncan was. Njoku was third team, playing with the deep backups. I didn't expect that to be the case. I mean, Njoku was getting first team reps earlier this summer. Granted, Duncan was hurt when that was happening, but nothing we've heard from practice has indicated Duncan outperformed Njoku or has been outperforming him. So that was a bit of a surprise. Again, normally I'd say, well, clearly Duncan is ahead of Njoku, seeing that, but I'm not ready to say that yet. Part of me wonders if they're challenging him. You know what I mean? Like, we got to see what we got in this sophomore 6th rounder. There's been some ups and downs, probably more downs than ups, in all honesty. Let's challenge him. We don't want to see him against the 3s because, that might be not give us an improper evaluation. Let's see him against the 2s. But that surprised me. I thought Njoku would get in the game before him.
Yeah, and Duncan was bad, by the way. 2 reps in a row, completely blew his block. A huge hit in the backfield. I think it might have been Chestnut. I don't remember if Haskins or Chestnut, but running back got tackled like 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage because he just completely whiffed on one of his blocks. And then the next play, he whiffed again. But I think Rudolph got out of trouble there and made a play or something. I don't remember exactly what happened. But Jalen Duncan's reps were bad in this game. I think if we did stock up, stock down in our last episode, we're not really doing that here, but something we learned, this is what we're doing. What did we learn from this game? We learned that Jalen Duncan doesn't look like he improved very much, and I learned that he's definitely not ready to start. And I think we learned that Nicholas Petit-Frere is going to be your starting right tackle in week 1. Like, that's starting offensive line group. Now, granted, they're going against backups. I'll say it again just to keep that caveat going. They looked great. The whole starting offensive line looked great. They were making big holes in the run game. Now, Spears did have that one negative run, so there was one play that did not go as planned. But overall, they gave Levis time to throw. You mentioned the touchdown. They gave the backs room to run. They paved the way for the touchdown, like you mentioned. Both touchdowns were running touchdowns. So offensive line, masterclass by the first team. Granted, again, I'll say it one more time, against backups. But still, it's good to, it's better than seeing them struggle against backups, right? Like, obviously, that's what you want and expect, and it was good. So any further thoughts on the offensive line, or you want to move on?
I'm going to move to defense, but I'm going to run through rapid fire really quick.
Hang on. I got more offense stuff before we move to defense, real quick. One guy who surprised me, David Martin Robinson, tight end.
Took the words out of my mouth. I said I was going to go through rapid fire on offense before we get to defense. David Martin Robinson. Look, you know what, though, to be honest, surprise, yes, but also as advertised. If you listen to this show religiously, I told you how athletic he is as a UDFA coming out of Temple. He is the most athletic guy in the mix at tight end 3, and I'd like to think he helped himself today. The real question is, how much does it matter? What I mean by that is I'm still stuck in the Mike Vrabel regime. Are they going to go with a blocking tight end at number 3? Because that's the typical thing. Or are you going to go with the guy that has the more pass catching upside? I think it's no doubt about it that DMR, as I like to call him, has the most pass catching upside of the guys that are in the tight end 3 mix. That was on display tonight. Hats off to him. I thought Latavius Simmons played okay. I bet you when the snap count comes out, he might have played the most reps out of any player in this game, because he came in with the 2s, and I think he stayed in throughout the whole conclusion of the game with the 3s. So that's something that's going to surprise people. He was the right guard the whole way through, I think, with the 2s and the 3s. Who else? I thought Hassan Haskins looked better than Chestnut. Not going to get too much into that, but advantage to him for RB3 as of now.
I do want to say on the RB3 battle, it looks like a pretty open competition. Haskins and Chestnut were both in and out. It wasn't like now it's Haskins' turn and then 2 drives later, now it's Chestnut's turn. It's like they were rotating a lot, but Chestnut did get on the field first. Don't know if that matters. I thought Haskins looked better. Chestnut had 2. No, Haskins, they both had big issues. Haskins was in on the fourth and 1 from the 2-yard line.
Got stuffed,
and got stuffed. And look, I know it was a great play by Malik Mustafa, who a 4th-round pick of the Niners, should have been drafted way higher. Draft Twitter darling. Like, everyone just knew he was going to be good, and somehow he fell to the 4th round. And of course, the Niners are the team that scoops him up after they got Huafanga or whatever his name is a couple of years ago. Like, whatever, they just find gem safeties in the mid rounds. But he's got to make that play. It was a good defensive play, but you got to keep the legs turning there. So that's a pretty bad play on Haskins. And then Chestnut had his own issue. Mason Rudolph pitches in the ball laterally. Now, was it the best pitch in the world? I don't know. It hit Chestnut in both of his hands. Bad snap initially, but this is the most important thing in the game is don't fumble the ball. So you got to make
I thought it was catchable.
I thought it was catchable, and if it's not catchable, then just get on top of it. If you feel like you're not going to corral that, then just get on it and don't let it become a turnover, which it did. So both guys in the RB3 battle made mistakes, but they both had nice plays. Chestnut was a leading receiver in this game.
That one big play on the screen, right?
He had a 36-yard catch and run screen play. He had 37 yards receiving total. The next highest player on the Titans in receiving was David Martin Robinson, 2 catches for 30 yards. So Chestnut had one play that was the most receiving yards anybody had on the Titans in this game. So anyway.
Too bad that penalty came back on Bryce Oliver, because he probably would have been the second leading receiver, because that would have been his 3rd catch. And now that was the best passing play of the game, Malik Willis to Bryce Oliver.
Yes, it was.
But I'm going to go through rapid fire again here, because we're probably getting longer winded than we planned. Special teams. I talked about throughout the summer how Brian Callahan clearly had a hard time filling that special teams role. I think it was the one spot he filled with not a lot of, at least from the fan base perspective, not a lot of conviction. Good debut for Colt Anderson. He'll be very pleased with the return game. Kearis Jackson, don't forget, I tweeted it. He was their best return guy last year. It's why he made the initial 53. Then, unfortunately, he got hurt early in the season. I don't think we saw him again, right, after he got hurt in the season. But he's their best return guy. I still have him as the favorite to be the kick returner. And then you love to see the rookie, Jaquan Jackson, who's taken a lot of flack for some reason from this fan base. The pick has great punt return on his very first opportunity. 2 explosive plays in the return game. You absolutely love to see it. I'm going to move us on to defense. I don't have as many takeaways, I don't think. I mean, we'll probably get into a bunch, but my main takeaway was didn't love what I saw from Jack Gibbons. Really liked what I saw from Otis Reese and Chance Campbell. Campbell, and he gets the game clinching interception at the end there to put a bow on his performance. Otis Reese popped on back-to-back plays, great TFL, and then a pretty damn good tackle and coverage on the very next rep. We haven't really heard Otis Reese all camp. Then you know what went through my mind when he made those two plays? I'm like, I'm hearing more. I'm seeing more of him now than I am in camp. And that's not a knock on him because I'm like, you know what? Otis Reese strikes me as the kind of guy that shines when the pads actually come on. And I know they've been on the last a week or so or whatever, but are they real? You know what? Are they really? You're not running around hidden, right? Like you're not flying around so as much, right? So I think that's a difference, right? I think you saw Otis Reese flash when he got to actually play football tonight. It's a good reminder because you've probably been like, well, what the heck's going on with Otis Reese? Where's that week 16, week 17 Otis Reese from last year? It showed up tonight and I don't think that's coincidence. Again, I think playing a football game makes a difference to Otis Reese. He played damn well. Chance Campbell played well. I hope this becomes more of an open competition because it's been Gibbons all the way through. I'm not convinced it should be.
In my opinion, Chance Campbell is the MVP of this game from just like a overall standpoint. Seriously, I mean, 9 tackles, a sack, a tackle for loss, a pass deflection, a QB hit, and an interception. Are you kidding me? He was everywhere on defense, and none of the quarterbacks played enough to win MVP. None of the running back, like the offense all split all the reps. So I'm giving MVP of this game to Chance Campbell. I mean, he was literally everywhere, and I enjoyed watching him fly around out there. I agree with you that this should be a much more open competition. If we're keeping this on the theme of things we learned from this game, I learned, and maybe we knew this in the back of our heads, I learned that I think Jack Gibbons is like the 4th best linebacker on this team at best. Like, I'm putting Kenneth Murray, who had the incredible blitz on the first play of the game and almost wrecked the entire
Which was hilarious, by the way. Denard Wilson would call a blitz on the first play.
I know, right? He couldn't help himself. So I thought Kenneth Murray looked great. Otis Reese, you mentioned, looked good. And Otis Reese got in the game early, too, for a guy we haven't heard a lot about being in this mix.
Second series, I think it was.
Yeah, he was already out there making those dumping plays. And then, Chance Campbell was flying around. Now, again, Chance Campbell played mostly against the second and third string team for the Niners. That's definitely something to take in consideration. So I'm not saying he definitively earned a starting spot, anything like that. But he definitely earned a chance to run with the ones and show, like, can he play better against non-scrubs? Like, can he play against the top-level competition? I'd love to see him get some run with the ones against the Seahawks first-team offense in joint practices next week, for example. So, very impressed with Chance Campbell. Impressed with Otis Reese didn't play that much, which tells me he's actually higher in the pecking order than maybe we would have thought. Like, I think he is LB3 right now, and he's probably going to... I mean, he and Chance both have a chance to pass Gibbons by the time week 1 gets here, and if they don't, it's only a matter of time. Like, Gibbons, not only did those guys look good, Gibbons looked bad, like flat out bad. The first Niners drive, the defense, which was the first team defense, I'm saying first team defense in air quotes because obviously, like, no Snead, no Awuzie, no Landry, no Simmons. Like, there were guys, Adams, Diggs, like a lot of guys were out. So it wasn't really a first team defense, but they let the Niners backups drive right down the field and score on them. And that included multiple long, 3rd and long conversions that went right over Jack Gibbons. Like, Jack Gibbons was not in position, zone coverage. He's like letting guys run right by him. No awareness of being in throwing lanes. Like, he was lost, and he's supposed to be intelligent, right? Like, that's his big trait that makes him better than the other guys, is his ability to like know the defense and read the offense. Like, I know there's no film study, there's no game prep from that standpoint. So maybe that's like his advantage is the film study side. And you're not doing that for this game, but man, he was bad. He was the worst linebacker who played today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see how they respond because he just seems to always be getting the reps. Always. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm going to run through some more rapid fire on defense here because I don't have a lot of thoughts. But pass rush didn't look very good. No surprise with no Jeffrey Simmons or Harold Landry. I mean, Caleb Murphy had the one. I mean, it was a bit of a blitz. He got home there. Thomas Rush had a couple almost plays. Shane Ray had one or two almost plays.
Thomas Rush gave up the touchdown to Josh Dobbs because he couldn't get him in the backfield.
So close. Yeah, almost had him down. But
Jalen Harrell.
We know the depth here is not great. Rashad Weaver had a good play batting a pass down, but we know how important Jalen Harrell is going to be to this team. Jalen Harrell played a lot. He
had one rush on the Niners' first drive where he almost got home, and Brandon Allen, is that the guy's name? Is that the guy's name? Brandon Allen stepped up and made a really nice throw for a big play, but Jalen Harrell was like a quarter of a second away from having a sack there. So that was a nice rush. But other than that, I didn't even really notice Jalen Harrell. I was kind of hoping to see more, and granted, 7th round pick playing his first game ever. But with all the buzz we've heard at training camp, I was hoping for a little more. I will say the same thing about T'Vondre Sweat, who did have one play where he just like threw an offensive lineman 5 yards back.
On a screen, yeah.
But it was on a screen. You never know, like, offensive line is trying to let the defender through so they can throw it over the top. So I don't give him too much credit. I mean, it looked awesome. It was like grown man strength, but it wasn't necessarily a great play for the defense. He was being double teamed a lot, obviously playing without Jeffrey Simmons next to him. But I was hoping to see him really push in the pocket a bit more than he did, and really like eating up blocks in the run game.
Got double teamed a lot.
He did, but the Niners were running freely through that, again, quote, air quote, first team defense.
Well. Yeah.
Really easily there. So I was hoping to see a little more from both of those guys. Jarvis Brownlee Jr. had a nice pass breakup. That was a good play. Eric Garror had a nice pass breakup. That was a good play. Trey Avery is not very good still.
I thought Trey Avery had a couple good plays, didn't he? Like, he had that one. Wasn't he the one in coverage deep down the field where they were both hand fighting? No call, good no call, incomplete.
No, that was Brownlee.
No. I know Brownlee had the PBU that you posted.
Oh, there's another one.
There was one earlier. You even said it to me in a message. I think Avery got away with one there. Then you saw the replay.
Oh, you're right.
That was Avery. I thought that was good coverage. That was good coverage. Field.
But he also got absolutely...
I think the one you gave to Eric Garror might have been Trey Avery again.
No, Garror was wearing 25. I think it was a tackle Garror had. Anyway.
Okay. There was another one later in the game down the field that I think was Avery again that was incomplete down the field. But the last point I wanted to make, you took out of my mouth, was the Brownlee PBU. That was outstanding. I mean, no panic. Plays the ball locates the ball, gets head turned around, plays through the hands of the receiver. 10 out of 10, teachable rep.
Absolutely. And Keandre Coburn flashed a lot, and he played.
Oh, yeah.
He came in
by the way,
yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up. He had 2 unbelievable plays. One was essentially the clincher, in my opinion. Perfect timing. Keandre Coburn, exclusive interview coming later this week. I don't know which day. It's already done. It was done before tonight's game, so unfortunately there will be no questions in there about the game. But we asked him some great stuff about going into his second camp, some great stuff about playing with T'Vondre Sweat, mentoring him. I asked him, I think, the most awkward question we've ever asked a Titans player. I almost didn't want to have it asked, but I did anyway. How do you balance mentoring him while also knowing you're competing for the same spot as him? It's a weird question because I'm not saying you're going to sabotage him, but how do you go about that, right? Like, how do you balance mentoring a guy that you're competing with? So I thought that was fun. He was great interview. I cannot wait to unleash that. I think it'll be really good timing to have it out Monday or Tuesday. Shout out to Easton Freeze who helped with that one. Can't wait to drop it on Broadway.
And the last thing we're going to talk about here is something that we haven't talked about at all, which is the backup quarterbacks. We should hit on it at least a little bit. Mason Rudolph played the majority of this game, which was my expectation. He went 10 of 17 for 126 yards. He looked pretty good. It was pretty good. He didn't lead a scoring drive. He did have a chance for a field goal that Nick Folk missed at the end of the first half. But, or did he lead one of the field goal drives? I don't remember anymore. We just watched the game. Literally, it just ended 20 minutes ago. But Mason Rudolph, he looked pretty good. Like, he doesn't look like any guy who's in danger of losing his job. Malik Willis, 5 of 7, only 38 yards. 4 carries, 42 yards, led the team. He had that one big run that he just looked really fast. He looked more like the player we saw at Liberty than I think we've really seen in the NFL in terms of like looking fast against NFL players. Granted, it was against backups again. I don't think Malik Willis is really a threat to take Mason Rudolph's job. There was one incompletion he had where his accuracy was just way off and he had the receiver open. So still some of that, but he is playing faster. He looks more confident. I think that's a good sign. I think he probably makes the roster as a Titans QB3, an emergency guy, but it was pretty refreshing to watch Mason Rudolph for like 2.5 quarters of this game, or maybe it wasn't that long, a quarter and a half, whatever. Majority of the game, more than Levis and Willis. and actually like lead a competent offense for most of it. Like that was fun to see that in the preseason. So I'm going to enjoy seeing that more. But I thought both guys played well. I thought all three quarterbacks played well, which is what we expected under Brian Callahan and sort of what we talked about going into this game.
Yeah, I thought both of them played well. You said it earlier. This was going to be like, it's going to be exciting to watch preseason ball all the way through because the Titans don't have a terrible quarter. There are a lot of terrible quarterbacks playing football in the preseason. Mason Rudolph's one of the better backups, as I've always said. And I thought Malik did carry over a lot of the positives we've seen in practice. I thought he, for the most part, I thought he looked decisive, fairly accurate, aggressive. Yeah. That run was outstanding. That throw to Bryce Oliver that came back through no fault of his own was the best throw made by any quarterback, I think, in this game. So it was exciting for both quarterbacks. I think Callahan will be pleased with both of them, as he's been throughout camp. He'll say the same thing. We've got two good backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think they're in a good spot there. So good to see that. Good to see the progress from Willis, and good to see like Mason Rudolph is sort of the quarterback we thought he was, as a high level competent backup. All right, that'll do it. We'll be back later this week. We're going to talk about joint practices with the Seahawks. We're going to look at the preseason week 2 game against the Seahawks, which is probably going to have a lot of juice taken out of it because of the joint practices, but that's sort of the way this time of year goes. Reminder that this episode is brought to you by Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville and Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville. Sinkers Beverages is the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville, serving the community since 1985. Their knowledgeable staff is proud to help you with large parties, themed events, or finding something unique for a special occasion. From birthday parties to milestone celebrations to everyday moments, Sinkers can help with the right drink for every occasion. And if you head to the sinkersbeverages.com website or check the link in this podcast description, not the link to buy or pre-order Justin's book, but the link to Sinkers Beverages, you can join the In-Crowd. In-Crowd members get access to allocated wines and spirits, exclusive events, early access to barrel releases, and more. And I'll also remind everyone, if you're watching, please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on channel alerts so you get a notification every time we drop a new video, and give this video a thumbs up like so we can help find new viewers out there who are looking for a nice Titans podcast. Some people call us their favorite Titans podcast. We really appreciate those people. There's a lot of competition for that, so I won't call us the best, but I will say we're up there, I think, and a lot of people do seem to like us. So help us find new viewers by giving this video a like, subscribing to the channel, and comment anything below. What was your favorite part of this game? But what did you learn from this game? Anything you want to comment? Are you pre-ordering the book? Do you want to wish Melo congratulations on his book finally coming out after 2 years of hard work? Let us know in the comments below. We really appreciate all of you. Melo, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
Love it.
A Broadway sports media production.